Hello, happy Sunday. How is everybody today? My name is Scott Pinyard. I'm the head coach here at This Naked Mind. You'd think I've never been live on Facebook before. So, for those of you that just saw my false start, I apologize. My microphone cut out. It was very strange. Anyway, I'm here. I'm back, and it is Sunday, and I am here like I am most Sundays. I'd say a good majority of Sundays to talk about some things that have been on my mind and to answer your questions. So I love hearing from you. I love hearing how you're doing. I love hearing, I just love hearing what's up with you guys. So please share where you're at, share your thoughts, share your comments, share your questions. I'm gonna get my iPad loaded so I can see comments just in case. Sometimes it doesn't work on my computer. There we go. Awesome. All right. So today I want to talk about this idea of focus. This has been on my mind a lot recently, and I'll explain more about that as I go through this live. But first, I want to offer something to you. One of the things that I hear from people all the time is this idea of like, man, I really feel stuck, right? I'll talk to someone maybe in our free groups, someone I just run into, on the street. We end up talking about this and they're like, hey, I really feel stuck. And I remember what it was like to feel stuck. And I also remember what one of the most effective things was for me getting through this process. Probably, I would say, outside of This Naked Mind, the book, the most important thing for me was hearing people's stories, right? Was hearing how people were going through their process, right? What struggles they were having, what successes they were having, where they felt that things went sideways. Like, I just loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. And if you are like me, then I have something for you. Naked Life Stories is a book where we have crowdsourced from people all around the world who have quit drinking with This Naked Mind methodology. And we asked them to write in their stories. And we took all of them and we published them and we put them in a book. And I want to give that to you for free. So if you go to nakedlifestories.com, you can get a free virtual e-copy of that book right now. You can go to Amazon and buy it too. But better off, or I would suggest going and getting the free version, which is again at nakedlifestories.com. That link is in the video description. Please take advantage of it. It's so powerful to hear how other people have gone through this process, especially if you are feeling stuck, especially if you are feeling like, man, is this ever going to change? Is this ever going to be different? Please check out that book. It's called Naked Life Stories. Again, it's at nakedlifestories.com. Totally free for you. Go get yours today. Ryan, hey Ryan. Ryan says, trying to make 90 days, but I can't seem to get through a week. I'd love to hear all and every tip anyone has. You're in luck. That's exactly what I was going to talk about today. One of the things that I think is like one of the biggest parts of this process. So, and that's focus. And so why don't I dive into that? I'm just going to chat. Again, while I'm talking, please type in your questions. Tell me about your journey, anything I can answer for you. I love to make this as two-way as we can. I know it's kind of tough because it's a live, but I love being able to see what you guys think. So focus. Focus. What does that mean? What is he talking about? People will come to me, and actually, people will come to me and say exactly what Ryan just said here. So thank you, Ryan. They'll say, you know what, I want to go this long, and I only got 3 days. I only got 10 days. I only got a month, right? And I know this because I went through this, right? I would get, and by the way, never a week and never really a month. Like it was a few days, maybe a few days. So, it's funny. I will have these conversations with people on our calls. And I'll have these conversations in our groups, right? And we'll talk about this and I'll kind of dig in and I'll be like, all right, what was going on? And you guys have heard me talk about data points before, and you've heard me talk about this idea that like the way out is through, right? So like these things are going to happen. We take the information we can take from them and we just keep moving, right? Moving forward. But there's something bigger here. And that's kind of what I realized this week. So our group, our program, The Path has, it doesn't happen on Facebook. It happens on a platform off of Facebook. And there's groups, right? So like there's the December group and then the January group and then the April group, right? And I get access to all of them. So every once in a while, what I'll do is I'll get my coffee in the morning. I normally check in, but every once in a while, I'll spend a bunch of time just kind of like scrolling through all the different groups and looking at this. And so I was drinking my coffee and I was doing it this week. And I was realizing over and over and over, and this definitely matches up with what I've seen, coaching one on one as well. People will say this, man, I messed up, right? I only got this long. What do I do now? And anytime there's a back and forth around it, what I find, and this is something that I hope Ryan and Irene will be helpful for you guys and anyone else who's listening to this, what I find is that people are focused on the wrong stuff. And this was the switch that I went through when I finally quit drinking. So I'll explain, right? What tends to happen is we get ourselves to a point, and it's normally an emotional decision, a big decision, sometimes not even our decision, right? It almost feels kind of forced. We get to a place where we think, you know what, that's it. I'm going to quit drinking. I'm done with this, right? And it's generally not from a place of excitement. It's generally from a place of I have to change or I need to get to this different place. And so that's what we focus on. We say, don't drink. All right, don't drink. And so I get up in the morning and then I'm thinking, all right, I'm focusing today on not drinking and I'm going to focus on not having that beer. I'm going to focus on not going to the bar with friends. I'm going to focus on not stopping at the liquor store on the way home, right? And the entire day, from the minute we get up in the morning to the minute we go to bed, is filled with us just putting boundaries up, right? It's filled with us saying, no, 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 don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that, right? And that's how these days go. And I'm guessing that any of you out there who have dealt with this can probably identify with this, right? Like this is how it goes. So it's like, nope, don't do that. Nope, don't do that. Don't drink. Don't even think about getting that beer, right? And so we spend this entire day feeling super restrictive, right? I know from me, like I would almost have described it as punitive, right? But that's where my focus was because that's what I wanted, right? The way I had written my goal, the way I had written where I wanted to go was not drinking, right? And so all of my thoughts, all of my focus was going on not drinking. And you've probably heard this story before. Where people talk about, someone learning how to drive and, you're learning how to drive and all of a sudden you find yourself driving at a telephone pole, right? And your driver's ed instructor is telling you like, steer away from the pole, like go in a different direction. But what happens is we get so concerned, we're like, I don't want to hit that pole. We keep looking at that pole, right? We keep looking at that pole and guess what happens? We drive right into it. We don't even necessarily mean to. The reason that I'm bringing up the story is this, right? So often when people go through this process, they focus on alcohol, right? They focus on, well, it's not drinking alcohol or not being around alcohol, whatever that might be, right? And so this focus tends to feel negative. We tend to not feel good. And the fact is, when we do that, we are actually not necessarily doing ourselves a favor. And I get it. Like for me, it took me a while to understand this, but for me, one of the things that like totally shifted things was when I recognized, wait, I shouldn't be focusing on not drinking. I should instead be focusing on the things that not drinking is going to get me. So I shouldn't be focusing on don't buy scotch, don't buy scotch, don't buy scotch, right? Because that doesn't make me feel good. That makes me feel restricted. That makes me, I don't like rules, right? So like if you tell me that there's a rule, I promise you I will find a way to break it as soon as I can because I don't like rules. So I'm setting these rules out for myself, right? Don't drink, don't stop on the way home, don't order a glass of wine at dinner. And it doesn't make me feel good. Instead, and what I'm suggesting to you is that you can actually shift your focus, shift the things you think about. So instead of don't buy beer, you can think about tonight I'm going to hang out and play basketball with my son. Tonight I'm going to be awake for bedtime. Tomorrow morning I'm going to feel better because I'm not hungover. And it's so amazing what starts to happen I want to read a couple of comments, put a pin in that. I'll be right back. Jem says, have been alcohol free for longer periods this year than I have in years. I did go out this weekend because I needed to socialize. I stumbled in at 6 a.m. I'm being gentle on myself, but I felt such a benefit from going out talking so much. I'm a single mother of 3 children and I can get really isolated. I'm hoping this will eventually phase out and other social interactions can fill the void. P.S. This naked mind has changed my life and I love you guys. Well, thank you, Jem. We love you too. That's really awesome. That's really awesome. So pay attention to what I'm saying here about focus, because it is super, super counterintuitive. Um, Again, for anyone who might have joined us since I started yapping here, write in. Tell me how you're doing. I want to hear questions. I want to hear thoughts. I will read them. We can chat about that. But here's the thing, right? So when we are focused on the negative, on the stuff we don't want to do, on this thing that has been so difficult for us for so long, life feels heavy, man, right? It feels like we're carrying around this load. Like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do that. No, don't do that, right? And then what happens, right? What happens is we inevitably run into a trigger during the day. And so we hit this trigger and it's like, well, maybe tonight. And then because we're so focused on this idea of what we don't want to do, what we can't do, what we shouldn't do, right? Then we beat ourselves up for it. And so what this tends to do, and I've seen this over and over in our programs, and I've definitely seen it in my own story, this focus on not drinking tends to add more stress, more anxiety, more worry. And in those situations, as a drinker, what do? Right? We drink. And so, what I'm suggesting today is become aware of what you are focused on. Because if you are laser focused on don't drink, don't drink, don't drink, it's not going to feel good. I mean, maybe it is for you. And if that's the case, congratulations. And I'd love to hear from you because I've yet to meet someone who has actually enjoyed that. Instead, focus on those things that not drinking are going to give you. Right? So let me talk about this a little bit more. I am from the Northeast and Minnesota and a little bit in Ohio. Anyway, all the places I've ever lived in my life, it snowed. I learned to drive in New Hampshire. And one of the things that we talk about in driver's ed in New Hampshire, which was like only 2 years ago for me, guys, I swear. But one of the things we talked about was what to do if you're driving in the snow, right? What to do if you get in a skid, what to do if you are, the car starts going in a direction you don't want to go. The number one thing that my driver's ed teacher told me was point the steering wheel where you want to go. Point the steering wheel where you want to go. So your wheels are spinning. You might feel like you're a little bit out of control, but you're pointing the wheels where you want to go. And guess what happens? You go in that direction, right? That's what I'm suggesting with you, right? That's what I'm suggesting for changing our focus from don't drink, don't drink, don't drink to the things that we want out of life. I'll give you another example, again, from my personal life. When I was just a few days in, for me, a really big trigger was that drive home, right? Like, so I would go to the office during the day, and then I would get in the car, and very often on my ride home would be when I'd be thinking about alcohol, and I'd be thinking about, all right, like I'll stop at the store. Do I have enough home? Am I going to be okay tonight? You all know, we know this story, right? So when I quit drinking, that was often one of the most difficult times of the day for me because I'd be leaving work, going home, and again, thinking, don't drink, don't drink, don't drink, right? And it sucked. Like, it wasn't fun for me. It wasn't actually enjoyable. One day, when I was riding home, my wife called me, and my very young son at the time, like, got on the phone, and you know what it's like on the phone with a 2 or 3 year old, right? You get about 30 seconds. But something really interesting happened in that 30 seconds, right? What happened in that 30 seconds is my thoughts went from don't do this thing, don't do this thing, don't do this thing to like, he's a cool little dude, right? And then, man, you know what? In just a few minutes, I'm going to be home with him. And that night was one of the easiest nights I had in early days. And why was that? That was because I focused on what I was getting, right? I focused on not on what I shouldn't do, not on what I had done, not on what, oh my God, like it's the longest I've ever made it. Like, not, it was no anxiety and stress. Instead, the focus was clearly and squarely on where I want to go. I was turning the steering wheel in the direction I wanted to go. Changed everything for me. And when I talk to people about this, when people will say to me, kind of like Ryan did at the beginning of this video, like I can barely get a week, right? And they feel stressed, and I know this feeling. I know what it feels like. But Ryan, I bet if you dig into like what you were thinking during those days and what you were focusing on, what direction you wanted to go. You've probably heard this saying before. I think it's a Tony Robbins thing, right? Where focus goes, energy flows. So if the focus is on don't drink, don't drink, don't drink, it's going to go in that negative direction and you're going to just feel negative energy. But instead, if you were to say, man, enjoy yourself tonight, have fun with my partner, enjoy a bike ride home, like go crush it at the gym, right? Whatever that is, whatever that thing is that you're getting because you're not drinking alcohol, that's what shifts things, right? And so pretty soon, what starts to happen is instead of this whole thing being about you not drinking, right? And we do this in our programs, right? We talk about how do we shift your thinking. That's what I do. That's what I do professionally, right? I shift people's thoughts. I give them new frames, new ways of looking at things, new ideas that change the way they think. This is what we do as a company, right? Is we help people change their thinking to the point where they don't desire alcohol anymore. Through that process, right? In those early days when things seem hard, focusing on those positive things, focusing on those things we get is one of the main ways that we can do that. Now, of course, I have a lot of other tricks up my sleeve and there's lots of other ways of doing it, but you can make this journey so much more enjoyable for yourself, for you, if you focus on where you want to go. Pay attention to that. So I want to give you some tips of developing that in a second. I see that I have a bunch more comments. Nikki said, exactly, I don't like being told, no, you can't do that. It makes me want to rebel. Oh, yes, I know. Reverse psychology works so well on me. Even now at 40 years old, like it's still like, I will fall for it because it just bothers me so much. Irene says, I have had many long stretches. I am having trouble gaining momentum and stopping this time. Yeah, Irene, listen, it's okay, right? It is okay. Allowing yourself a moment to breathe and really thinking about, and what I'd recommend here is like really pay attention to what you're focusing on. What are you thinking about? Is this coming from a place of love or is this coming from a place of force where you're beating yourself up? One thing you can do, and a great jump start if you want to get started again, Irene, is do our free alcohol experiment. Just go to alcoholexperiment.com. Totally free. We have a new app too, by the way. You can try it out on the app as well. But giving yourself that space, making it okay, and then focusing on where you want to go. That's how you can help yourself get out of this. Thank you for sharing, Irene. And I want to promise you that this doesn't last forever. This little momentumless space you feel like you're in, it's all part of the journey. It is all part of it and it's all good. But watching videos like this definitely helps. So thank you for sharing, Irene. David says, I crossed 500 days recently. That is amazing, man. That's so cool. During this time, I've had zero hangovers, spent $0 on alcohol, had zero car crashes, had zero lost relationships, lost zero jobs, and felt horrible zero times. I love that, David. I love that, right? That focus and like being able to say, look at what I just did, right? Look at all of these things I didn't have, right? You can flip that right around and you can talk about all of the great things that you had, all the incredible things that you've done going through this. So thank you for sharing that, David, and mega congratulations on 500 days. That's awesome. Shelly says, at the beginning, I was really scared to stop drinking. I just took baby steps, even just delaying a drink for an hour to be able to see that I could. These little steps gave me confidence to take more steps. I love T&M. That's awesome. Congratulations on that, Shelly. That's super cool. Joanne, how can I change my focus in social situations? What I want is to connect with others, yet I feel I need it to be social. Oh, Joanne, you just asked the $1,000,000 question. I'm going to get to that in 1 second. Let me first say hi to Chrissy right down the road from me in Hampton, New Hampshire. Hello, Chrissy in New Hampshire. I hope you're doing good. Well, easy for you, Scott, right? Like, hey, just don't focus on not drinking and then everything's fine. Yeah, yeah. How do I figure out what to focus on instead? Right? Alcohol has taken such a central, role in my life right now. Like, how do I do this? How do I actually shift? How do I actually go somewhere? How do I actually get my focus on something that's going to serve me when all I can think of is I don't want to drink? And Joanne, to your question, right? Like maybe sometimes it's in social situations, maybe sometimes it's in personal situations or work situations. I know, like for me, the big conferences back when I was an engineer, back the conferences and being away and all of that, like it was a huge part of that. Um, so now what? Right? What, Scott? How do I figure out where to focus? Well, Joanne, first of all, I feel like you see right there in your question, you actually talked about one of the things that you want, which is connection. Connection, right? You want to connect. So take a minute and think about how good it would feel to connect with someone without alcohol in between you two, right? Head to head, heart to heart, however you want to say it, right? Person to person, human to human, the two of you exchanging ideas, having a conversation. How does that feel, right? That's what I want you to focus on. So, really thinking through what are the reasons you're making the changes and what will it feel like when you have those. So for me, kind of echoing what David said earlier, one of the big things for me was not waking up with a hangover. There was a period of a long time, I don't even know how long really, but years and years and years that I woke up every day with a hangover. There might have been, I mean, I don't want to exaggerate, there might have been like maybe a day here or there where I didn't drink as much or whatever, but like the vast majorities of days, I woke up pounding head, dizzy, kind of sick to my stomach, not sure how this day is going to go. Right. And so one of the big things for me was what would it feel like to not wake up with a hangover? I'm going to give you guys some steps to do this in a second, but just to walk you through this idea, man, what would I do in the morning? Well, geez, I would get up and then I would actually work out, not just say I'm going to work out, right? I was very fond of saying that after my, fourth scotch at the end of the night. I'm going to work out tomorrow. It's going to be great. Sometimes I would, sometimes I wouldn't. But when I didn't have a hangover, I would get up and I would go to the gym and I would actually feel better after working out as opposed to what happened when I had a hangover, which is when I felt worse, right? So these little things, right? What are the things that I'm gaining? Not what am I giving up? What am I gaining? Right? How are those things going to feel? I want to experience those things. Then we have something that feels positive pulling us forward instead of something that we want to push away from. So I want to give you a couple of steps to kind of get there and understand this. And Joanne, I also suggest, before I get into the steps, you said I feel I need it to be social. I highly recommend you go Google This Naked Mind Alcohol Social. There's a bunch of videos from Annie on that where she talks about this idea of like, I need it to be social. What I'll talk about here is how to move that focus, but Annie can give you some really good facts and info on that as well. I can give you a little summary right now, and hopefully this will help, right? Again, the answer is kind of hidden in your question there. You said, what I want is to connect with others, yet I need it to be social. Well, if you feel that you really want to connect with others, the question is, like, does alcohol actually help you do that? Right? Are you actually getting what you want? And very often, when we pay attention and we go through these situations, we find that alcohol does the opposite of that. Right? Alcohol does the opposite of helping us feel connected. It actually truly just kind of muddies the water between two people. So if you are familiar with the ACT technique, I highly recommend doing an ACT on I need alcohol to be social. And again, Joanne, like there's a ton of information available out there on our website. And I don't want to gloss over this too quickly because I think it's an important question. But you can use the techniques that I'm talking about here to help you kind of push through it as well. But if you want more info, please go Google. I feel like I'm leaving a question unanswered, and that drives me crazy. So I just wanted to address it really quickly. So steps, how do we do this? How do we do this? I want to change my focus. What do I have to do? Step number one is really easy. right? You've heard us talk before about this idea of like, understanding your why, right? Why do you want to quit drinking? Why do you want to make this change? You probably have a list, you probably have people or parts of your life that you want to connect with more or do better at, things like work, right? Those are probably reasons that you currently have. So what I want you to do is I want you to take that list, and if you don't have that list, write up, these are the reasons I want to change. And then I want you to go through all of those reasons, and I want you to spend a few minutes imagining that it's already here, right? So let's say that one of your things that you wanted to do is to be able to connect better with your wife, right? Sounds very familiar to me, right? And so this idea is, all right, I want to connect better with my wife. So how would that feel, right? Take it just a few minutes and visualize that. Imagine what that would be like for you. Imagine what it would be like to be able to maybe have a conversation without repeating yourself a million times, right? Or maybe have a conversation that you remember the next day. Whatever it is about this idea of connecting with your wife better, get clear on it. Understand how it would feel to you. And then, and this is the final step, so just as a reminder, right, we understand our whys, we know why we're trying to make this change. We really take each of those whys individually and think, all right, what if this happened in my life? How would this feel? What would I think? What would be different? What would things be like for me? And really get inside that idea is kind of how I like to say it. Like, try it on, like it's like clothes shopping. Try it on and see, what would life feel like for me. Once you have that idea, now you know, okay, these are things I can focus on. These are things I can focus on. So when you are thinking about the day, right, and let's say it's day one for you, wake up in the morning and you're excited, review that list and focus on those things. And when you find yourself thinking, don't drink, don't drink, don't drink, and you feel the walls kind of closing in, right? That restrictive feeling that comes from focusing on where we don't want to go. That stress and anxiety that comes from focusing on what we don't want, pull that list out. My phone is full of lists that I absolutely love to look at from time to time, and reminders, right? Give yourself the opportunity, when you recognize, oh, wait a minute, I'm really focusing on the negative here, to shift to those positive things. And if you're having a particularly difficult day, even removing yourself from the situation that you're in and sitting down, closing your eyes for a few minutes and visiting those whys, right? Visiting those feelings you wrote down, visiting what would happen if I had this in my life, right? You're going to change your emotions. Changing your emotions is going to change your mindset, and that's what so much of this is about. So, that was my thought on focus, right? And this is true, by the way, no matter on what you might be working to change. If you feel like, oh man, I am in this process and it is so hard every day, right? I'm trying not to eat carbs. I'm trying not to, whatever, drink. I'm trying not to worry. I'm trying not to do whatever this is. Pay attention. If you're finding it very difficult, pay attention to where your focus is, because you might be focusing on something that isn't helping you. You might be focusing on something that's actually making you feel worse instead of better. And so when you find yourself in that situation, pull out that list. Think about, wow, these are the reasons I'm doing this. Here's how this is going to feel. Here's how my life is going to be different. And you're going to see that the process feels totally different to you. It's the same process, right? You weren't drinking, this day over here when you were beating yourself up about it and when you were so focused on not drinking, and you weren't drinking the day that you were focused on what you're gaining, right? And the day that you were really allowing yourself to feel that. Which one of those is going to be easier? Which one's going to be better? Yeah, of course, the one that you're focused on the outcome you desire. Focus on what it's going to feel like. That is a game changer. So I hope that that is helpful. I know it's a little bit out there of a topic. I got a couple other hellos here. Marita said, "Morning from Melbourne, Australia. I really need to refocus and restart, and this is a great reminder to get started again." Awesome, Marita. That's awesome. You're in the good right place. Kelly says, "If you listen to someone who's tipsy, they often talk over people and interrupt. There really is no connection." That is so true, Kelly. So true. I love that. That's why even when I hang out with people now who drink, which I do on a regular basis, it doesn't bother me. I'm typically kind of out of there by like the second or third round for them because it just just not connected, and that's fine. We'll get together earlier next time or whatever. But that's a really good point, Kelly. Awesome. All right. Well, that is it, everybody. That is what I had for you. If you know someone who could probably use this idea, who might find this beneficial, someone who says, you know what, like, I'm just so focused on not drinking, and you see that they don't feel good, please share this video with them. Just tag them in it. I love when people can do that. And of course, if you have any questions, you can feel free to write them here. Finally, if you are finding yourself stuck, if you are in a place and, oh man, I got to stop and read what Chrissy just wrote because that's awesome. No one ever woke up and said, "I'm so glad I drank so much last night." Every morning I wake up and say, "I'm so glad I did not drink." Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. So if you are finding yourself stuck, if you are finding yourself feeling unmotivated and feeling alone and feeling isolated, then I highly suggest you go to nakedlifestories.com and get the free ebook that we have available for you there. It is full of stories from people. Mine's in there, but it's full of stories from people who have changed their life and changed their relationship with alcohol. And it can be an incredibly motivating thing. It can be an incredibly useful thing. It can be an incredibly valuable thing to read those stories and see how other people have gone through this, just like you feel like you are going through now. So head on over to nakedlifestories.com. Again, completely free. I just want to get you a copy of this book, and we'll get it out over to you right away. All right, everybody, that is it for me. I may be back next Sunday. We'll see. Kind of busy weekend. Hopefully I can make it then. But I will talk to you then. Enjoy your week. Take care.